barrel. I think this bet puts a lot of pressure on 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s. So 5s not so much. And having a club, probably jamming this river.
Don't you guys just hate it when you bet flop and turn, and then you end up on the river with a complete airball, and you're thinking to yourself, man, villain is never gonna fold top pair here, so you can either sigh and give up, or you can grow a pair and jam all in like a real boss.
Do you want the best of our proven CFP program without the long-term commitment? Then go over to the site pokermission.com/mechanics.
Yes, welcome back. Another play and explain. The Zoom pool just started running. I am afraid though it might die. Okay, that's not good, huh? Because this Poker Mirko guy from Bulgaria joined. I don't know him, but the 3 hands that I played with him were quite raggish and well played. So I hope another recreational joins, so it doesn't scare away the other players, or that the pool just starts fitting and people just continue playing. But hey, 4-betting getting in with queens, maybe not against the ER. We're also quite deep. I think actually first ER we should probably fold. 140 big blinds deep. Jamming into 2 people. Okay, yeah, this is probably a fold, I would say. But I don't know the guy, and that is quite difficult about it. I think given the fact that I don't know the guy, I would probably have to call, but I'm not very happy about it.
I seriously, because queens are. I lost yesterday everything with queens. He raised. No king or aces. We're all in, baby. We're all in. This is it. This is a big moment of truth. This is it. Either we win everything or we lose everything. But come on, baby. There we go. Tens is a good hand for us. No! No! What the fucking shit? The fucking shit! I lost everything.
He has queens as well. I think that is quite a good scenario. Not really sure about that one. I think normally it would be a fold. So far he's been playing a little bit raggish, but you know, not 100% sure. Go for the check raise here with Jack 8. Good hand to double check raise depending on the turn. And go to call the squeeze here with pocket 9s. Yeah, so for example, I think this is a good turn to go for a double check raise, blocking the 8 and blocking the jack. Face a check here by Dennis. Throw a little bit. Actually, the initial squeeze of check folded, the deuce 3-9, which is quite surprising, as the deuce and the 3 should not really connect all that well with my range. Like the pairs that I will most likely have is 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s. This is actually not really a dunk bet, but given the theme of the video, or given the fact that we are making a video, let's throw a little donkey and see what happens. Throw a 7 out there, dealer. Or an 8. Or spade. Or an ace. I knew. Oh, he knew. I knew the donkey was coming. I also know. I mean, okay, well, we got it true.
Why do you do that?
The ace 9 here. Quickly looked it up in the sim just for Gordon. It is indeed GTO at a very low frequency, 15% donking. Okay. Okay, got a fan of the channel. Shout out to Mr. Bianchi or Mrs. You never know. But if you look at my YouTube analytics, Mr. is most likely. But hey, you never know. Let's keep this channel gender neutral. Sometimes going to 3-bet this. This is very loose. Actually, I think this is way too loose. Okay, I apologize. Apologies. 10-5 or something would have been fine. 10-3 is maybe pushing it a little bit. But hey, we rolled high. Wouldn't have done it always. Punish me, Dennis. DJ Dennis. For the people who don't know DJ Dennis, shout out to all my Brazilian fans out there. If you don't know DJ Dennis, go to Spotify, type in DJ Dennis. Then you hear some Rio de Janeiro funky sounds. And my personal favorite, Isso que é vida, transando todo dia. Right, Renee, let's just go back to playing poker, shall we? DJ Dennis goes for the check raise. Where is he from, DJ Dennis? Ukraine. All right, let's give the Ukrainian some money, shall we? We should probably do this, huh? We should probably. Here, he bets half pot. I think check raising river is probably good. He should just bet. Oh, check X himself. He shouldn't really bet too much 5x and 7x on the flop. Gonna check back the 7s. 5 is very bad, even though he should probably barrel most, if not all of his 5x. I would just win for a queen 9. Now we're gonna unleash hell on this guy. I think the only strong hands you want to check on the river are the ones that can actually throw out the check raise. I think that is definitely important. You're just gonna check call. I don't think value there should come from check calling with made hands. But if you can check raise, then checking definitely gains some. Pocket aces. Well, that's a hand we're gonna play. I think I did mention already in previous videos, the chances of you getting a walk with aces are quite high. Or a fold to 3-bet. Like we have another recreational coming in. See a flop. Still want to see a flop. It's a very bad flop. Three, 4, 5, 6. It's a king eye board. Never mind. King eye boards. Let's not fuck with the king eye boards. Here, fire out the half pot. He's gonna be pretty fucked on this board, lacking a lot of strong hands. Very unlikely that he has pocket 4s or pocket 3s. Interesting turn. Barrel. I think this bet puts a lot of pressure on 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, or 5s, not so much. And having a club, probably jamming this river.
Don't you guys just hate it when you bet flop and turn, and then you end up on the river with a complete airball, and you're thinking to yourself, man, villain is never gonna fold top pair here. So you can either sigh and give up, or you can grow a pair and jam all in like a real boss.
Even though the club isn't that relevant. Only thing we block, I guess, is king, queen of clubs. Okay, so it is relevant in terms of him having ace queen. I guess it kind of depends on his turn folding frequency with other pairs in his range. Like, for example, pocket 8s or something. Or pocket 9s. Or pocket 7s. Or pocket 6s. But yeah, I think blocking ace queen there on the river and blocking a flush. Obviously, we would prefer to have the king of clubs. To also block king jack of clubs. But hey. Cannot have it all. Ace 8, I'm gonna throw out a small bet. Can also check. Both. Actually, don't know how relevant really my queen of clubs is. Probably it's very irrelevant. As king, queen of clubs, usually just 3 bets pre. Like the call range is very defined. With ace queen. Some pocket pairs. And maybe some suited stuff like king jack of clubs. And queen jack of clubs just folds flop. So actually I think the queen, other than blocking ace queen, is very irrelevant. But then again, we do get there on the river with ace king. I think also ace queen. There's not much else to do than jam, I guess. So I guess you just jam your king queen offsuit with club. And then ace queen plus. Should be good. We were jamming for pot. But yeah, he should probably actually already... This is one of these spots where maybe on the river we should just not bluff because he has already folded all his weekends on earlier streets. For example, versus the half pot on the flop, he can probably already fold pocket 8s. Maybe. My range is not tight enough for that. I'm not 100% sure. Like, if I would watch myself back, I think I would have played that. I was playing that hand quite sort of on autopilot. I think both flop and turn are autopilot, and the river, given the fact that I had a club, blocking ace queen, and I thought blocking a flush, made it quite an easy jam, but maybe I'm completely off. Given the way his range is on the river. If his range on the river, even though how unlikely that is basically ace queen, pocket 4s, pocket 3s, or a flush. Not really a range we should try to jam into. Oh, really, Wacko? Yes. To quote the podcast with Xin Yao. For example, if I tell you that that is the range, then everyone knows what is the correct play. And this is something interesting that Xin Yao said. He said, if you give people the ranges, they usually know what to do. But the problem is that people usually don't know what the ranges are. I thought that was very interesting. Gonna bet 2 pair, normal sizing, and just see what this guy does. Don't think he has an 8. 8 would probably just check raise. Also unlikely that he's a jack because I have a jack. I think it's likely that he has a 10. Just try to gonna bet something to get the value out of it. If he's a straight, he probably still raises, or worse, both. With the straight, I mean the king queen straight. I don't think he has the 8 straight. Okay, so he actually did have the 8 straight. Interesting. Because usually when the board is like double flush draw, I expect them to just fast play it on the turn. Obviously versus a straight, I just want to jam the river, but given how drawy the board was, I figured he would probably jam that on the turn. So I thought his range was way more weighted towards a missed flush draw or something on the weaker side. And versus that range, again, a good example of, you know, the range. Like versus that range, I think betting small is definitely better. But versus a range that contains an 8, which is likely not raising the river, but always calling, jamming is better. So let's take a look at this king-queen hand. We squeeze in the small blind, which we should do some of the time. Half of the time. This is then going to be the call range of the button. Actually, I wanted to start with the call range on the button first. He had ace-queen off, which he should call on the... If you split on the button, should call some of the time. And some of these pocket pairs, right? And as I also mentioned on the 3-4-4, 4s and 3s are very unlikely. I was also very surprised, if you remember earlier on when I had 9s, that on the deuce 3-9, the guy check folded. I'm like, okay, basically I have 9s, but I don't really have these hands, right? Then when I squeeze, big blind folds, cutoff folds. He is going to call always ace queen, his suited hands like king queen suited, but somehow here the weights, they seem quite high, but king queen suited, for example, 3 bets 50-50. And here the weight seems a little bit higher. I'm not really sure why that is. And he should call some of his pairs. Okay. Like I said, usually what you will see is that it's very pocket pair heavy, ace queen, and then like some suited proto. This flop, however, I said is very good for me, but actually it's not that great for me in hindsight. You also look at the equities. I'm only 52% favorite. I actually thought that was different. So I'm definitely over c-betting here. As you can see, king queen, for example, is basically never betting. I was actually quite surprised. Okay. I would have definitely betted this spot more often. So if we then bet half pot, he should indeed, I think I've already said, I just got the ranges completely wrong. I said that even maybe he would already fold 8s, but that's way more applicable. Let's say we 3-bet small blind versus EP and we bet half pot, then 8s can maybe already fold the flop. But my range is just so wide that, yeah, my range is way wider than I actually thought, which I could have probably come up with because I actually have king queen off in the hand. Turn ace, we indeed see the smaller sizing that I used. I think I went 20%. I think that's fine. King queen with a club, definitely barreling. I think now as played, it all makes quite a lot of sense. In theory now, he should still on the turn call with quite some pairs, right? Also, depending on how often he had that, I think the 6 and the 7 are probably worse. Let's say I have 5-6 suited or 6-7 suited. You're blocking those, so 8s and 9s are definitely way better. In terms of suits, it doesn't want to have clubs in this scenario because it blocks the bluffs and the board is paired. So if you hit a 9, it's always a good 9. So usually you want to, I think I talked about that in my previous video as well. When ranges are really tight, you want to continue the pocket pairs without the flush draw. And this is a perfect example. So he should still be on ice and then as played if we get on the river. But like I said, king queen never bets. Then on the river, it's an easy jam. Actually, any king queen that gets there. Probably also because in position will sometimes have ace king. I don't think ace king really plays that way. Ace queen. So it probably actually weights it towards how often they now have this hand on the river. So on the river, it's fine. Depending on how often he calls all these hands on the turn that now going to fold the river. Actually, it still should call river some of the time. Especially now with the club, which is quite interesting. So let's say, for example, on the turn you fold the ones that have a club, right? Because you don't want to have the block the flush draws. And now on the river, you have to call the ones with a club. If that's something that you have in your mind, then basically you will always fold, right? If on the river you're like, I want to have 9s with a club, so you know, because we then we kind of block the flush. But if on the turn you fold the 9s with a club, then you don't have a calling range. Sometimes this happens. You are like on the river or on the next street. You're like, oh, I will only call. I think this hand is a better hand to call with. But in truth, you've already played that hand different in the early street, so you don't really have that hand. It's quite interesting. You can catch yourself with that kind of floppers on the river. On the river, you actually still have to call like some pairs. The blocker in this case does play because apparently he has queen jack suited some of the time. And ace queen actually sometimes start to fold, but yeah, we block ace queen. That's obviously very good. Ace jack should also already fold some of the time because it's blocking my bluffs with the jack, I guess. So I'm not really sure what to think about my play. Let me know what you guys think, if the river is a good jam, yes or no. I kind of feel like I got sucked into it the way I played the hand, but I'm obviously over c-betting this spot. I mean, a snap called ace queen, which it's not necessarily making that much money in theory, but definitely versus my range, it does. Now you can tell me if this was very low frequency that he will show up with an 8 there, or that you have a different read on the situation. Sevens. Actually goes for the bet. This is actually one of the boards that you could definitely have a betting range on. I think sevens with a club we should still do. Five, five, five. I think if we have 8-5, we want to get a lot of money in. I think with king 5, just overbetting is best. And then when I say with ace 5, we want to get a lot of money in, this is definitely not the best play with ace 5. Ace 5 probably wants to bet small. Maybe even king 5 already, but I doubt it. He still raises. Yeah, that feels like ace 5 to me. I guess he could have king 5 as well, but that's very few combos. And ace 5 is quite a lot of combos. You have it, buddy. Okay, he also has king 5. That's a good scenario. So basically, the fact that I'm not happy versus the raise is the reason ace 5 should not overbet. Basic. The king 5 here on the river. I was rambling about the difference between ace 5 and king 5, and you can clearly see that indeed ace 5 usually prefers to go for the check raise, and the other 5x want to go for the overbet. This is a very important concept, guys. Playing your value hands in a way that maximizes your profit is very important. Okay? You want to spend if you want to spend your time on something, spend it on that. Playing your value correctly, getting the max amount of money. Overbetting here with ace 5, I would say, is a big mistake. But we overbet king 5, and he went for the raise. He actually should still raise with a 5. That is actually quite interesting. That is actually quite interesting. Then apparently I don't understand what's going on. Okay. Then why? Okay, then okay, so I can see what's going on. The ace, he's not betting the ace 5 because he blocks the calls, right? A lot of the ace highs are going to hero call you. That's why I personally think in game that if someone has 5-8 here, they're not always going to find the raise. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you guys saw that I wasn't that happy with king 5. And for that reason, I wanted to play ace 5 different. You do see some calls here with a 5 that if you would check, he would obviously bet with a 5. And then we can throw out a little check raise. Obviously, it's also the benefit that we can get some money out of some bluffs. That's always a benefit of checking as well. But so yeah, that is actually in the solver at least the main difference. I do think actually in practice, people don't really make the call. Now, obviously, I don't have to look at what happens versus the raise. Yeah, maybe actually we re-raise with king 5. We do actually re-raise with king 5 some of the time. I think that's very funky. I think then we're overplaying our hand, in my opinion. But hey, let me know what you guys think. We have some backup equity to go with our ace 3. Go for check raise. Just trying to fold out 2 random cards, getting called by an ace. I don't mind this hand actually as a barrel. And ace-8, I'm just gonna check down. And we both have ace-8. We have a fellow YouTuber in the pool. Shout out to Flush Call, if I'm not mistaken. Don't know if the ace-3 was spewy. We will look at that afterwards. Very good board for me. I expect to get a check. You can bet half pot or 1/3. On this exact board, I personally prefer to bet 1/3. But I think half pot is the GTO strategy. Deuce 6. It's quite pretty. That's versus Punta. Let's try the dunk bet. Let's see if it works. Punta 1965. Don't try this at home, guys.
I will say it was fun. I won't say that it was necessarily plus EV.
Okay, now we actually make it straight. Check. He had queen 10. Could have also blocked the river. I think both blocker and check are both fine. Check is probably reserved. If we're talking theoretical, okay, check is probably reserved for your 2-pair sets type of holdings. And usually if you have a straight unblocking all the pairs, you just want to bet. So probably this is just a 1/3 bet. However, I thought versus the perceived recreational, I thought checking here was slightly better. As I think if a lot of hands that would still call a bet. So let's say he calls the river with 2-pair plus. I think those hands, especially recreational, would have already raised on the earlier street. So I thought those hands were less likely, and I thought it was more likely he just had 2 high cards with a spade. That would bluff if I check. But yeah, then you lose value from a 1-pair hand if you think the 1-pair hand would have called. But there's a straight and a flush. I doubt so. Oh, so you're one of those guys, TheWakko. You bet when you are behind and you check when you're ahead. In this case, I was. But like I said, we're playing versus... If I would have played this hand this way versus a non-recreational, I would have bet the river. But I would probably not have played that hand that way. Point opening 3.22. And like I said, perceived recreational. We're not even sure yet. But hey, we came to play some poker. It's a very good board for the eye poker. I'm gonna start off with a bet ski. Gonna call. And on the river, if he checks, most probably we're just gonna fire out a bet. And if he bets, we're just gonna call. And we're quite happy about it. He actually uses a 3/4 sizing, which actually I think is good here. Cool. River's a 10. He has king, queen. Okay, versus strategy that bets king, queen, 3/4 on the turn, we should probably implement lead. But I don't think leading on the 10. Yes, he will have sometimes river the 10, but is the 10 really going to call? I guess it depends on your size. But yeah, if that bet sizing that he used is very heavy weighted towards king, queen, we should lead the river.
Do you want to make 2022 your greatest poker year ever? Now, I've done a webinar on how to do that in our academy, which we have made available completely for free. So go over to pokerambition.com and let me help you achieve your goals.
Hey, Jack 663. I think our hand is good enough to bet, call, check raise. I would definitely not go too wild on this board. I think it's a good spot. I think he should definitely check raise around 30% probably. I think that's good. He checks, we're just gonna check as well. I think when the board is double flush draw, he should, especially because it's paired, he should not be betting too much with like a 3 or pocket deuces. This is something that a lot of people often get wrong. They will bet on the 9 of spades, but they will check on the 9 of clubs. And I think I'm just going to check it down and probably lose versus like deuces or something. Let me even check raise ace 7. We sort of had the same hand, but then different. Similar properties. In queen, we're getting a little bit deeper. Not deep enough for me to start calling this though. You could make an argument for it. For under 125, I usually continue story. Actually, I don't mind potting this board some of the time. Let's just go. Fuck it. He calls. It's a bad turn. And I think check. Checks as well. And I think I'm just gonna give this one up. Given how the board run out. And given the fact that I made a pop bet on the flop, I expect him to do quite some folding. What happened here? Bet. And the reason I went pot is because we were a bit deeper. Basically, depending on how deep you get, but usually when you become slightly deeper than normal, I guess you could call it that way, You're big sizing, like normally I would bet like 3/4 on that board, but because we're a little bit deeper, your big sizing just becomes a little bit bigger. There is a flipping point though. It's not like if you're two the big less be deep, you could just bet twice the pot. Okay. There's a jam here from Carl.
All in. Boom. What you gonna do?
Which to play. We don't block the ace-8 suited, so I'm gonna fold. I think in general that's quite a profitable play. Here facing overbet, 140%, which I like. Like I said, I don't think this guy is recreational. This is actually a hand that wants to sometimes raise. Let's just go for it. Usually in these videos when I say something that is sometimes, I'm usually just doing it. My raise sizing was a bit big though. Went 7 to 15. No, it's fine. I'm also doing this for the video's sake, to sometimes have... Basically, if there's a low frequency play, I'll usually try to do it on video. But yeah, just creates for a little bit more entertainment, I guess. But we get a little bit of a bad run out, I would say. We don't have a diamond. That's not good. But you could say that a diamond does also lower his value betting threshold. Is that the correct word? So sometimes, you know, you could say that a diamond there gives him more value hands, but then sometimes it gives him less value hands than the hands that he would now check back because the river is a diamond, and therefore he actually bluffs more on a diamond than not. So here. Big bet here, good play. I'm gonna call it check 9 because I've got it to the nizzles. And he bets again. He played his hand. I really like his sizing scheme. Fold. What did this guy have? He had ace-6. So good value check raise on the flop. The river was not a diamond. We could again maybe implement a leading strategy. At this end, we don't really have... He went 140, which I think is good, especially when you become a little bit deeper. I think it's good to start with a little bit of a bigger bet. In the sim, we only have 125. We can indeed see that ace-9 sometimes wants to check raise. And like I said, we rolled high because we were making a YouTube video. So we decided to try out a little check raise. It indeed goes to... It's a min raise, right? Roughly. 6, 25, 15, 13. I think 7. Yeah, we went maybe a little bit too big, but that's fine. We'll go for the very small raise. And calls. Turn king. Diamonds. Do we block or do we check? Check. Expected. He then does the block. We then do the call. And then do we lead the 4 river? Let's say a deuce river, right? I would say a 10% is appropriate. Weak. Very weak solver. Okay. Obviously, would say on a 4 diamond, maybe. Okay, we do have some jams now. Okay, 12%. That's not very weak. The jam all in is not a very weak play. Not a very weak play at all. Check, and he should just assume check behind this a6. Actually, he should indeed sometimes bluff the a6. He was onto something. Guys, if there's even a 10% chance or 10% frequency leads on the river, I want to find it. You can see I'm in the Dunkbet fan club on all streets. If you are also on the Dunkbet fan club, guys, let's open a Discord. The Dunkbet fan club. And all we talk about is dunking on all fucking streets. How awesome would that be? Leave a comment down below if you want to join the Dunkbet Discord. Interesting actually that he thought about it on the river with a6. Oh wait, he actually had the ace of diamond. That's why he thought about it with a6. To maybe do something funky. Oh, eye poker. Very satisfied the GTO crowd. This would be a little bit spewy. Oh. I'm just gonna call this time. And I start with check all the way to fours. You can also bet, but I don't really want to get raised. So I think just check calling is fine. I'm just gonna check fold the ace 5. Set face. Pocket fours. Can we squeeze out a bet if the 5 pairs? Nah, that's way too low. Wait. Just checking and hoping to win versus King Eye is probably the correct play. We even got Fried Mulder back, guys. Shout out to Fried Mulder. Go follow him on YouTube as well. I thought he pensionized. But no, instead of pensionizing, he's just, you know, jamming stacks in the middle.
Grow a pair and jam all in like a real boss.
Suppose if I want to block bet this, I'll go for it on a 10. I think most 10x will probably just see bet flop. Three bet the ace 10, very good flop. Not gonna see bet the board this often, but I like the a6. Here I'm gonna go for the check. Probably play bet check bet. I like mine for a bet check bet. Just put some pressure on some pocket pairs. Gonna check over here with the a6. He used 63% sizing or something. It's a bit of a weird sizing. The 4 is very good for him. He goes medium twice. Yeah, the 4 is not a great card. We're hoping to see something like 7-8 offsuit with the 7 of clubs, 8 of clubs, something like that. But you know, him just having a king is also quite likely. But hey, king 8. And that's the thing, right? I don't know with the sizing scheme used, maybe he just always has king 8. Because I can also imagine that, given the way the board ran out, that he would definitely want to overbet on the river wizard. So his sizing scheme seemed a little bit face up. Then why did you call TheWakko? Yeah, good point. But there's definitely something that in the future to take in consideration. You would play more against his opponent. Then I wanted to look at the strategy with the a6. Let's start actually on the flop. I mentioned that I wouldn't bet this board that often. Indeed, 65% checks. And you can clearly see that a6 of all sixes is the one we prefer betting the most. Okay. Then on the turn, we bet 1/3. He calls. Turn is 10. A6 definitely checking. Almost full frequency. It sometimes adds in a little block, but if you run to a higher accuracy, this will probably just disappear. Check. And now we can see in position, mainly doing a lot of big betting. The most dominant size, I would say, is over bet. Personally, I would just stick with a pot bet here. He went for something a bit 535, like 63%. I'm not, like I said, I wasn't really a big fan of it. I then prefer to bet a little bit bigger and then check more hands like king 8. Let's just say he went 75. We sometimes actually already fold or raise a6. We called. I would have never folded a6. And river is a 4. Check. And in position has a clear value bet with ace 8 played. King 8. And we sometimes have a call with a6. So as played, it's fine. But like I said, the sizing isn't as commonly used. Okay. And indeed, like a bluff that I mentioned, 7-8 or 8-9 with a club, for example, these are very clear bluffs. And then in the higher end as well, right? The jack-9, the queen-jack. Those are the type of hands that you want to look for. Sixes doesn't really do actually much because you can see that like a set usually wants to overbet at some point. So I don't think we really block any value, but at least we unblock all the bluffs. So I think that is fine. Small bet versus big blind. But mainly pay attention to the turn strategy. Okay, this is definitely not a line that you should take too often. Right? Here I raised the flop with 4, so he made a small 3-bet, which I think is a good play. I'm kind of forced to call and hope to turn a 4. Or hope he gives up and I miraculously somehow win. But you know, these are all not great scenarios. The deuce is really good actually. The deuce is really good. I expect him to do very little bluffing here on the deuce, as my line is very consistent with the deuce. So now we have to pray that he has, okay, queen. Should we have bluffed the river actually? Didn't even consider that. Maybe we should have. But then we had the pocket 4s hand, where we made a little flop raise with the pocket 4s. You can indeed see the pocket 4s wants to raise quite often, probably a little bit more with the ones that block 10-4 suited. Is that even relevant? 10-4 suited is not in there, right? Okay, it is in there. So yeah, then it probably wants to block the 10-4 suited. Yeah, that's because it doesn't raise a spade. Well, obviously we thought about that. No, wait, we didn't. Guess we have a diamond. Okay. Should have maybe taken that in consideration. We raise, and he found the flop 3-bet with queen 9. Shout out to this guy. Okay, he actually went overboard with queen 9 offsuit. But to be fair, I would probably also go overboard with pocket 4s. So he raises. Actually, he raised smaller than this. We now call. Expected. Turn is a queen. Then he hits a queen and then he checks. It's one of those guys. Bets when he's behind, checks when he's ahead. Queen 9. Should now actually, he should just basically do a lot of betting, which I think makes a lot of sense, right? The queen is a very improving card for you. I still have all these low pairs. Check. Should we have bet maybe? No. Of course, checks. Now the river was the deuce of spades. Should we bluff? That was a question today. Looking at the range, no, yeah, we just win a showdown often enough. Just check raise, easy call. Could actually even 3-bet the flop. Could I? Not sure. I think we have easy call. Or really wacko. You have top pair, top kicker, and a flush draw. Want to bet the river. I think the turn sizing, the 3/4, it feels a little bit like king queen. And we can have still quite a lot of 10 jack in our range. The ace 9, I think we should probably be barreling, given our hand. I think we're playing actually versus an unknown here, TheWakko from Bulgaria. Queen jack. That makes sense. It felt like something like that. Then we had the ace queen. Started off with a high frequency. I would have probably bet it a little bit more often than what I saw here. Yes, queen jack offsuit, which basically should almost never check raise. Ace queen, if he did flat, it should always check raise. So he definitely went on the loser side with the check raise here. We had ace queen of hearts. We just called. Turn is the 7 of hearts. And I expect, again, to see quite some overbetting. Again, you can see the 125 is going to be the most dominant sizing. And then these half pots, this kind of hands are more reserved indeed for like the medium hands, like queen jack. However, if we look at, let's say we group half pot and 3/4 in there, it should, for example, also include some queen 7s, some queen 9s, sometimes pocket 4s. However, the most dominant sizing these really strong hands want to do are the 125. So then usually what can happen in a split like this is that people too often put strong hands in the 125 and weaker hands in the 50, 75 region, which makes it easier to read them. Okay, you could, for example, prevent that by using 125 and check. If you only have 125 and check, if you only give the solver 125 and check, queen jack can no longer bet, so it will just go to the check. Or you can try to play super optimal and use all these sizings and then make sure that with a certain frequency, a hand like pocket 4s or a hand like queen 9 is going to be in there. But definitely something to look out for. So you indeed bet at 3/4. We actually do sometimes raise. Actually, raising did actually was actually something that I had in mind because, like I said, I already felt on the turn with the 75, maybe we can now even raise for value versus that hand. Interesting that he doesn't raise kings. I guess then he has less king-queen. And if we have ace-queen, it's more king-queen. And we have obviously more equity, some backup equity. But then probably if we then raise, he folds king-jack. And king-10. Okay, so that is why. We also can get some sort of protection. And then indeed now we can get value from these. So actually would have been a good play. Call. River is a 6. Now queen jack should actually find at 10%.
I like this bet a lot too. This is really, really kind of sexy.
But he did check. So here he did decide to not include these smaller sizings. And now we have ace queen. I went for a medium size, which seems fine. And I would say call. Oh, he should actually fold. No, he should call it queen jack off. He should actually. I mean, he played his hand solver approved. But like I said, versus players who you play against with quite often, is definitely something to keep an eye out for. Donkey, let's go. We get a fold, just like that. Let's call this with the ICO in the big blind. Let's see what ICO does. Don't squeeze ICO. Then it comes up betting, and we have nothing going on with our hand. I thought the Queen Jack was quite interesting. I'm pretty sure that, I mean, this really depends, but these are things to, just like with the King 8 hand that my name is Carl played. Obviously, I'm not drawing any conclusions. We saw 2 hands. But from my experience, it's good to watch players or keep an eye out when players use certain sizings that could be too face up or could be too weighted towards a specific hand class. And this is definitely a good tell if you can get an accurate read on people. And then from there, make adjustments. I'm not saying that that's the case with these 2 players and these 2 hands that we saw, but I'm just saying, especially when you move down in stakes, I'm pretty sure a lot of guys at 100NL are quite transparent with their bet sizing. They would have betted the set, or at least they would have betted a very strong hand for a bigger sizing on both turn and river, and kept the medium sizing for the actual hand that they're saying that they have for the medium sizing. And I think this is also why, especially if you study poker, if you study theory, I think it's, if you study the solver, or if you study theory or solver, whatever, you should pay extra attention, in my opinion, to the tree of the aggressors. Because then if you start to understand what is a thing and what is not a thing, you can start to see when people deviate from the most frequent sizing. And then you can start to draw conclusions from that if you see that more often. First it alerts you like, hey, something is going on. This does not really seem optimal. And then the next question you can ask yourself is, why would you use a different sizing? For what purpose? Is that because you have a very strong hand, or because you have a very medium hand, or in a sense? This is something, in my opinion, that you have to get good at, especially at lower stakes, because there is just so much information out there. So it seems like the pool has died, which is very unfortunate, but also a little bit expected, as I said already since the beginning. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I hope you guys learned something. I'm very happy that we did manage to get some hands in. If you guys like this video, believe it or not, guys, over 50% of people that watch these videos, they are not subscribed. If that's you, do me a big favor and hit the subscribe button. Okay, hit that like button as well. Oh, we get to dealt one more hand. Hit the subscribe button as well. And I will see you guys in the next video.
Now, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Take a look at other videos that we've made. I'm sure you will like them as well. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And make sure to join our Discord community so you can stay up to date with new content, new promotions that we have running here at Poker Ambition. And if you want to know more about Poker Ambition and our services, go over to the site pokerambition.com. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video.